I wanted to bring today's episode to the podcast talking about essential oils and which ones are right for your fertility. We are digging deep on this episode and talking about essential oils that we can use to help with insomnia, anxiety, depression, autoimmune disease, and really how we can use this tool in our fertility toolkit to help. The whole goal of this is to get us into that parasympathetic state. How do we reduce inflammation and really calm the body and get into that rest and digest parasympathetic state? So excited for you to listen to this episode. I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 4 spots available per month to work with us. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. And this call is for you if you meet at least one of these criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This calls for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering working with us, go to Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. That's Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. There's a lot of information about which supplements are right for fertility. And like most couples I speak with, you are probably taking a lot of supplements. But are these supplements optimizing or harming your fertility? That's why we recommend professional grade supplements without harmful dyes, fillers, or top allergens so that you can prepare your body in the best way for pregnancy. And as you may know, we take a functional approach to fertility. And while supplements are included in your customized protocols, which are based on testing, they are only part of the equation because there's no pill you can take that will out-supplement the basics, such as poor diet, dysregulated sleep, either moving too much or not enough, and not dealing with chronic stress. So we do recommend basic supplements for both men and women. And these are essential starters that you need to have right now to optimize your preconception health. And I'm excited to offer you a special discount at our Fab Fertile store. You'll receive 15% discount on our professional grade supplements. So simply go to Fab Fertile Store, that's F-A-B, fertilestore.com, to access the basic supplements so that you can prepare your body for pregnancy success without wasting time and money on supplements that may not be right for you. Go to Fab Fertile Store, that's fabfertilestore.com, and save 15% on your order. Hey there. Thanks so much for listening to the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. And I've got a favor to ask you. If you are enjoying learning about the functional approach to fertility, consider going to iTunes and rating and reviewing the podcast. This is how it helps the show reach more people that are struggling with infertility, knowing that there's another approach that really can get to the bottom of why it's not working in the first place. So all you need to do is, if you're on the app or the desktop, just go in and consider leaving a 5-star rating and leave a review. And there is step-by-step instructions in the show notes showing you exactly how to do that. So if you can just take a few minutes, just take the few minutes right now. You can pause this recording, come back, leave the review. It would really mean the world to me and help others that are on the fertility journey as well. Take care. I didn't need to go to donor eggs. Obviously, I don't regret it. I have beautiful children. I could have done things differently, restored. I was still cycling back in my 20s. I could have looked at my health, the environmental toxins, the stress I was under.
Many women are being told their eggs are too old. That's often merely an assumption that's not based on actual evidence. The reason being that there is no direct test of egg quality. You can't test egg quality.
It's the man who's got a food sensitivity or he has a zinc deficiency.
Like, there can be a root cause to these symptoms that are, quote unquote, period problems, that the doctor will pass you a pill without any question of why.
And some part of you knows that if you can reframe your journey from not want to struggle, or if it is struggle, learn how to embrace the struggle. Learn how to embrace it.
Most conditions in the child occur during the 9 months of development. It's the genetic switches are turned on or turned off, and they're pre-programmed. So you are in such a powerful, amazing position to do amazing things for your kids.
Why is IVF the first step? Because we believe it should be the last step. Welcome to Get Pregnant Naturally, where functional medicine and natural fertility solutions will help you get pregnant and have your baby. Hey there, I'm Sarah Clark, founder of Fab Fertile and your host. I believe the functional approach is the first step for anyone struggling with infertility, and my aim is to help you get pregnant naturally. Today, I'm welcoming Jodie Cohen to the podcast, and we're digging into how to utilize essential oils on the fertility journey. Jodie Cohen is a best-selling author, award-winning journalist, functional practitioner, and founder of Vibrant Blue Oils, where she has combined her training in nutritional therapy and aromatherapy to create unique proprietary blend of organic and wild-crafted essential oils. She has helped over 50,000 clients heal from brain-related challenges, including anxiety, insomnia, and autoimmunity. And for the past 10 years, she has lectured at wellness centers, conferences, and corporations on brain health, essential oils, stress, and detoxification. She has been seen in the New York Times, Wellness Mama, Elephant Journal, and numerous publications. Her website, Vibrant Blue Oils, is visited by over 300,000 natural health seekers every year, and she has rapidly become a top resource for essential oils education on the internet today. So thanks so much for listening, and I'm so thankful that you're here. Make sure you hit subscribe, and if you know someone else who is on the fertility journey, please share this podcast with them. Hey, Jodie, excited to have you on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here and connect with you.
Yeah, awesome. If you could share your journey and really how you came to do this work.
You know, it's funny. I think that in some ways our darkest hours kind of are where, our best ideas come from, because necessity is the mother of invention. So I originally got into nutrition because my second child was really a challenge. He was totally ADD, couldn't focus, all over the place. I kept taking parenting classes thinking it was parenting style, and nothing seemed to help. And one day, a bunch of families were at the zoo, and my son was actually being really well behaved. And my friend said, "Oh my God, look at, how great he's behaving." And I had that moment of feeling like a proud parent. And then another mom passed out a snack. It happened to be a Ritz cracker. And he literally Jekyll-Hyded and took off across the zoo. And once I caught up with him, brought him back, reined him in, my friend said, "Okay, I've never seen him Jekyll-Hyde that quickly. My brother was on Ritalin his whole life, and it turned out he was just allergic to weird foods. You should take him to a nutritionist." And I thought, I can do that. I've done everything else. Took him to the nutritionist, who recommended that we take him off of soy, corn, and dairy. And the next day he was a different kid. And I thought, that is crazy. I have been banging my head against the wall for 3 years, and it's food. I have to learn more. I wound up going back and getting a degree in nutrition and trying to work with other, wiggly kids. And so I learned this technique called muscle testing that just basically efficiently helps you identify remedies, even if someone is all over the place. And that came in handy when the next shoe dropped. My then husband was bipolar. The mania didn't really present until after our first child was born. And after our second child was born, he was pretty depressed all the time. And so, you accommodate, you're always trying to keep all the, plates in the air. And at a certain point, it became apparent that he could die on my watch. And so we moved him to a residential treatment facility. And once I knew he was safe and it wasn't my job to keep him safe, it was literally like I had been deficit spending on my energy reserves for 5 years, and I completely ran out of steam. I could barely get out of bed. The kids were 5 and 7, and I, obviously I was a single mom. Suddenly I had a job. I was, class parent. And so I would get up with them, make them breakfast, pack their lunch, take them to school, come back home, crawl into bed, set the alarm for 10 minutes before pickup, and go get them. And that was kind of all I could do for a couple of weeks, which really wasn't sustainable. But luckily, a friend, I had helped her run an event, and she was planning to give me a box of essential oils as a thank you gift. And when she came to drop them off, she said, "You have been so chronically stressed for so long, and the stress hormone cortisol can lead to chronic inflammation in the gut. I bet, all the remedies you're taking aren't getting absorbed. Oils might really be a good thing for you because they can be absorbed through the skin." And again, necessity is the mother of invention. I figured, well, I know how to test. Let's see if anything helps my adrenals. I identified 5 oils, which felt weird because normally I pick one or two. And then it occurred to me that I could combine them. So I, went into the kitchen, got a shot glass, and basically started testing how many drops of this one, how many drops of this one, made my first blend, put it on my adrenal glands on my low back. And, hand to heart, felt like myself for the first time in weeks. I was actually able to go to the supermarket, clean the house, do the laundry, put it away, make their favorite meal. And that night when I was lying in bed, I'd put them to sleep, and then I'd sit there and lie in bed and basically stare at the clock. It would be like 10, 10, 12, 10:30, and kind of praying for sleep. And I had this thought, I wonder if I could do something for my, the pineal gland is what releases the sleep hormone melatonin. So I thought maybe I can make something up for that. So I went downstairs and just made something up. And I knew that, the skin above the ears is really thin. And so that was a good place to apply it. I put it there, fell asleep, probably had the best sleep I had had in years, if I'm being honest, and woke up and just kept making things up to help me. And after a couple weeks, I was feeling better, and all my friends were like, "Oh wait, we want to try what you're doing." So I was giving them the remedies, and they're like, "This is great. You should do something with this." And I thought, well, someone, this is so obvious. I'm sure someone's doing something already. So I went online to research, and I was really surprised by two things. I was super surprised that no one was looking at oils kind of through the lens of physiology and balancing organ systems and regions of the brain. And I was even more surprised that they made it so complicated. I was almost grateful that I didn't have the mental bandwidth to start by researching, because I would have assumed I was completely unqualified and I wouldn't even have started. And so that's, at that point, a friend said, there's a nutrition conference and it's like $200 to be a vendor. You should just go and see if people like your oils. I did, and they were really well received. People really said, I thought about oils. They kind of seemed confusing. I like the way you make it simple. So that's how I started.
That's an amazing story. I know it's sort of, as you say, you just kind of, you had the background then to be able to figure some of this out, but then it wasn't necessarily, over researching. It was like, wait a minute, let's use myself as my first test case, which a lot of us in this field typically do. It's like you work on yourself, heal yourself. And, it's always a work in progress, and then really want to share that information with others. So yeah, thanks for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And so today I wanted to dig into our whole goal here is to really reduce inflammation in the body for both the couple. So either with food sensitivities and gut infections, reducing environmental toxins, looking at mental, emotional stress, balancing the thyroid, blood sugar. And typically people that come to me, it's a busy professional, type A, let's get it done. They love the testing. And then, we develop that protocol. And then, we're taking a mind, body, spirit approach to preparing your body for a baby. So even though like the testing and the protocol is great and the supplements, it's equally as important to work on stress and, chronic stress. And really, how do we get our body in the parasympathetic state? And so essential oils can be a really targeted way to do that. So can you explain how that would help us access that parasympathetic, rest and digest state?
Absolutely. And you pretty much described me. I mean, I was so type A that when people used to say to me, you just need to reduce your stress, it would almost stress me out more, because it's like, really? I mean, I guess I could go to yoga, but then I still need to get the laundry done, get the kids to school, and soccer and all these things. My life didn't slow down because of, I couldn't just make all the stress go away. And what I've learned over time is you can't make the stress go away, but you can shift your own internal gears so that no matter how crazy the world is outside of you, you can still be calm. And that does have to do with your nervous system. Your nervous system is really the operating system for your body. It's called your autonomic nervous system, and it controls all of your automatic functions, like your breathing, your heart rate, your immune system, your fertility, your ability to digest foods, detoxify waste. All of those things are controlled by your autonomic nervous system. and it's designed to keep you alive. And to do that, it really has two speeds. It's got that you are in danger kind of sympathetic branch speed. Think of it like the gas pedal, where all of your resources are really allocated to immediate survival. So your blood is routed away from your reproductive organs, your digestion, your detoxification toward your arms and your legs so that you can either fight back or flee and stay alive. And then when the danger passes, then your body is able to feel safe and all of the resources are allocated towards reproduction, detoxification, digestion. But you hit a really critical point that danger is not just physical danger, like a lion chasing us down the street. It's any kind of anticipatory stress, because when we noticed a pattern where we were put in danger before and we recognize it, that can keep us alive. So thought-driven stress, worries over relationships, financial situations, personal health and safety, all of these things set off the same kind of hormonal cascade in our body as a physical stressor. What's interesting is the gear shift, so to speak, between the sympathetic fight or flight, you're in danger, stress place, branch of the nervous system, and the parasympathetic rest, digest, heal, and get pregnant, a branch of the nervous system, is your vagus nerve. It's the most important nerve in your body that most people have never heard of. It's cranial nerve number 10. And just a quick anatomy lesson. It starts at the base of the neck and kind of splits and wraps around both sides behind the earlobe. So if you go ahead and just feel behind your earlobe, you'll feel that bone. That's your mastoid bone. That is where your vagus nerve is the thickest and the most accessible through the skin. It then winds through the throat, the larynx, the heart, the lungs, all of the organs of digestion and detoxification, and some of the organs of reproduction. And it is really the main communication highway between your brain and your body. It runs in both directions, from the brain down and from the body up. And anytime you activate any of the organs that the vagus nerve moves through, like, for example, breathing. For anyone that does yoga, you might wonder, why do I always feel good at the end of yoga? Why do I always feel better than when I started? It's because the positions and the breathing, the slow exhales, they stimulate your vagus nerve. And then you shift into that I feel safe, I'm okay, parasympathetic state. So what's interesting with essential oils is that you can use essential oils in a very specific way to shift into that parasympathetic state. There's a researcher, Datis Karazian, who really spearheaded this effort. And he would tell people to gag themselves with a tongue depressor because, the vagus nerve innervates the throat, or gargle, or splash their face with freezing water, or do a coffee enema that stimulates the gallbladder. And as you might guess, compliance was fairly nil because, that feels like work and it kind of feels yucky. And then around 2012, there was a researcher, a neuroscientist out of New York by the name of Kevin Tracy, who started playing with kind of pacemaker-like electrical devices that were implanted right behind the earlobe on that mastoid bone to start stimulating the vagus nerve. And he was getting tremendous success, such amazing success that the FDA approved the vagus nerve stimulation for epilepsy, depression, migraines. Again, effective, but you have to have surgery and have electricity in your ear. What we started to realize is, just like acupuncture needles, certain oils, that are kind of stimulatory and can kind of get through the skin very quickly, can be used to stimulate the nerve in that specific point and actually turn on your parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're stressed, when you have to rush between your job and home and cook dinner before you get your kids to soccer practice and the other kid to his swim lesson, and then come home and help with homework and maybe finish a presentation before you go to bed, instead of having to drop the ball on any of the busy things you're doing, you can just shift your body into the calmer state so that even though things feel slightly overwhelming and stressful, you're still okay.
Yeah, I love that, being able to access that quickly, right? That vagus nerve piece, which, yeah, the I've heard of the gargling, but not the other thing. I didn't realize the coffee enema was doing that too, because it was like detoxing. But yeah, that's interesting. And then, so you talking about you used essential oils to help with your insomnia. Can you share how that would help with sleep and anxiety, and your top tip to help eliminate insomnia?
Yeah. So what most people don't realize, like we're all, the body works together, right? So our stress response, the stress hormones of cortisol kind of work in tandem with the sleep hormone melatonin. Specifically, like they kind of alternate throughout the day, a little bit like a teeter-totter. So in the morning when you wake up, your cortisol levels should be high to give you the energy to get out of bed. And then as the day weans on, it starts to kind of decrease so that by nighttime, your stress and energy level is lower and your melatonin level is higher. And what tends to happen is if you're anxious, like so many of us, our body is exhausted, but our mind is revving. That releases the higher level of cortisol, which kind of interferes with your ability to release melatonin because, if the lion is chasing you, you really don't want to fall asleep. So one of the ways to naturally trigger your pineal gland to release melatonin is with essential oils. I have a blend of rose geranium, grapefruit, manuka, myrtle, lavender, balsam of Peru, which is interesting because it's a really grounding herb, and then myrrh. And I get into the specific ingredients and ratios in the book, and also why these oils in particular are helpful. But you can topically apply, like it's interesting, the skin right on top of the ear, not on the ear, but the skin on top of the ear, that is pretty much level with your pineal gland, which is kind of in the middle of the brain and takes in light. It releases melatonin in response to darkness. But just topically applying, even this is one reason lavender can be relaxing for some, not all. It's like Benadryl, sometimes it makes you go to sleep and sometimes it makes you hyper. But that's why I like blends better. But just topically applying a blend before bed can kind of trigger the pineal gland to naturally release melatonin. That then kind of forces cortisol and the nighttime anxiety down and helps you fall asleep.
So you're rubbing it so it's the top of the ear on the on the outside there, like where it curls.
The skin above the top of the ear. So maybe put your finger on your ear, trace it along to the skin, and just right there.
Right there.
Really
okay.
Thin. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's neat. And how much would you put there?
Just a drop. And you can even, for people that don't like oil, you can put a drop on a cotton ball and just smell it, or put it in your pillowcase so you have access to smelling it.
You could put that on before you go to bed then.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, it's funny, when I first made it, I was like smelling it in the kitchen and I was like, wow, I better get upstairs before I pass out because it gets really quickly.
And what's the name of that blend that you have there?
I call that circadian rhythm. It's really good also for, I like to take red eyes because I just use that on the plane and fall asleep. And, then you don't, for the type A efficient person, you don't waste a day.
Okay. And then as far as, so we talked about the insomnia there with sleep, and then anxiety. So is it the same one you're looking for anxiety and depression if someone's struggling with mood issues? Is that the one you'd recommend?
I have a really good tip that actually is kind of, you can use any oil for anxiety. Activating your parasympathetic nervous system calms anxiety because it helps you feel safe. So you don't need to be as anxious. But there's a really interesting tip. So different regions of the brain kind of do different things. Like we have two hemispheres, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. And a lot of aspects that we might think are our personality might just be one is over-functioning and one is under-functioning. There's a whole branch of chiropractic called functional neurology, where they really are trying to balance the different hemispheres of the brain. And when it comes to your frontal lobe, your forehead, which is kind of your executive function area. The easiest way to stimulate one side is through your nose, because your nose, your olfactory nerve, goes directly to your forehead, your frontal lobe. So anxiety, in particular, panic attacks, which I could be the poster child for anxiety. I've had my fair share, so I speak both from clinical and personal experience. When you're having a panic attack, that is your right frontal lobe, your right forehead, that's overactive. So the way to balance that and cancel it out is to do something that activates the left frontal lobe, the left forehead. So all you do is take your right thumb to kind of plug your right nostril and smell anything. It could be any oil in your house. If you don't have oil, oils are derived from the peel of citrus fruits. Peel a tangerine and just smell that through your left nostril. And kind of like hunger, you're ravenous and then you eat and you get full. You can kind of get full with smell where you stop smelling and you don't need it anymore. That usually occurs between 3 to 7 inhalations. So it's pretty amazing. It kind of it activates the left side of the brain, balances the left and the right, and you feel less anxious immediately.
Love it. Yeah. Coupled then with the functional side of things of looking at gut infections and food sensitivities and, those stressors, this is like an immediate relief rather than, and also I guess if you're on medication, coupled with medication, if that's for you.
In terms of inflammation, we didn't even talk about the vagus nerve is what releases the anti-inflammatory neurotransmitter acetylcholine. Topically applying essential oils on the vagus nerve can stimulate the release of the anti-inflammatory neurotransmitter and help calm inflammation.
And that's the circadian rhythm one you'd put there on the top of the
that one is parasympathetic, but yeah.
Parasympathetic one. Okay. You have a parasympathetic blend, don't you?
We do. It's clove and lime. And it's interesting because most people don't, people talk about, diluting oils. And what they don't realize is that diluting, it means adding an essential oil, like we'll use lavender, to another oil like coconut oil, olive oil. And what it does is it kind of allows you to expand it over a larger period and also slow the release. So for example, my parasympathetic blend, I combine with fractionated coconut oil because that allows, it's almost like a really quick hit. It allows you to topically apply it on the nerve and it gets through the skin really quickly. Jojoba oil is more like slow release, like timed throughout the day. So depending on kind of how you want to use oil and what the function is, you dilute it differently. But clove is fabulous for a number of reasons. But for this purpose, it gets in, it stimulates really quickly. Like, the parasympathetic nervous system turns on digestion and your whole kind of motility digestive waves. So anyone who's suffering from constipation, if you apply this oil, like sometimes they'll hear their stomach churning, sometimes they'll make a dash for the bathroom. Like it works very quickly.
And so applying that to your ear and then
behind your ear, behind your vagus nerve.
Yeah. And then you would use either the jojoba or the fractionated coconut.
Well, I mean, basically the way I look at it is, you can purchase our oils, which we've done for you, or if you like to combine them yourself, we give you the complete recipe in the book.
Great. And what about depression?
Depression is really interesting because that often actually has to do with the frontal lobe as well. Like there are certain oils like citrus oils really kind of boost mood, but oftentimes kind of slow or underfunctioning prefrontal cortex forehead area is correlated with depression. So again, because your nose goes directly to your forehead, anything that you can do to stimulate that frontal lobe helps to kind of turn on, counteract, depression. And it's pretty interesting. Different regions of the brain talk to each other, right? No part of our body exists in isolation. The part of your brain that kind of triggers anxiety is called the amygdala. If you've ever been about to cross the street and somehow you jump back and realize, wow, that bus almost hit you, but it didn't, that's your amygdala. Or you might be walking in the woods and you think you see a snake and you jump back involuntarily. And then your amygdala checks in with your prefrontal cortex and you take a second look and you realize, oh, that's a stick. I'm safe. So think of it like, the anxious partner, the calm partner, and they work together. But when you're feeling really anxious and depressed, that's when, too much of your energy, your focus, brain power is kind of living in the amygdala. So anything that you can do, like smelling something, topically applying on the temples, anything to draw energy to the forehead helps to both calm anxiety and calm depression.
And you'd use the same blend as before, or what blend would you?
At this one, there are certain things that you have to use a specific blend, and there's certain things that are just a matter of comfort and preference. A lot of people like the smell of orange. Citrus oils really do a great job for boosting mood. Mm-hmm. The ones that kind of get brandished around a lot are neroli and bergamot, and they're really expensive. If you're new to oils and you just want to try this out, you can buy an orange oil usually at like your supermarket for under $10. Just make sure you like it. I'm really not a fan of if you think the smell is repulsive, it's good for you.
Yeah.
No, okay. Smell it and make sure you like it.
Yeah, I've heard that analogy and I'm like, oh, this stuff is horrible, but your body really needs it. Yeah.
I think the opposite is true. I crave chocolate when I'm on my period because I need magnesium. Mm-hmm. When I was pregnant, I craved hamburgers because I needed iron. I think you should listen to go with what you like.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so we help a lot of couples that are struggling also with autoimmunity. And so it can kind of go part and parcel with potentially if someone has a premature ovarian insufficiency, like 1/5 of people with POI actually also have an autoimmune disease. And we see a lot of people coming in with either more celiac or Hashimoto's as well as dealing with infertility. And so how would the essential oils help with autoimmunity?
Yeah, I have Hashimoto's. And what's interesting in the book is I'm sure like you start to see all these people that, they've done all of these tests and they think they're so complicated and no one's been able to help them. And it boils down to inflammation. But when you look under inflammation, what that boils down to is making sure their body can kind of shift into the parasympathetic state so that it can heal and so that inflammatory signals can get turned off. Making sure they're able to sleep. Not just fall asleep, but sleep through the night, because that's when the body and the brain detoxifies, and making sure that, there's fluids can flow through the body. So the good things can get in and the bad things can get out, and drainage, making sure that the toxins and the garbage actually leave the body is something that's really challenging. And that if the toxins aren't leaving the body and are recirculating, they kind of trigger an immune response, which then triggers inflammation. So that's one area where I think oils are, frankly, super well suited because they can get through your skin, topically. Anything you put on your skin gets into your bloodstream within 20 minutes. And especially for lymphatics, like we know that when, toxins leave the cell, they go to the lymph, then the blood, then the liver, then the gallbladder, then the gut, then hopefully the toilet. And at any point in that cycle, there can kind of be a bottleneck where they get stagnant or they can get reabsorbed in the gut. And for hormone health in particular, if you're reabsorbing old hormones, then that throws off your hormonal balance, making it even harder to, you might be able to get pregnant, but you're having a lot of miscarriages. So anything you can do to help make sure that the garbage kind of continues on the exit route and leaves the body, that's really beneficial. And that's where we have a blend in particular that supports lymphatic movement. Most people don't realize it's a one-way lane. It's supposed to move in one direction and it can get backed up at any point, just like, traffic jam. If you have a 4-lane highway, but say there's construction on 3 lanes, it's going to slow down the traffic. Everything is going to be more congested, compressed. So the more you can really help dilate, the vasculature and help with fluid movement, which is really what oils do in plants, you can ensure that the garbage leaves the body faster and less inflammation is triggered.
And what are the ones in the components of the lymphatic one?
It's really interesting. It's a good combination. It's the mint oils. Hang on, let me pull it up and I'll tell you exactly what's in there. But what's fascinating to me is that sometimes it's the lesser known ones or the oils in combination. Like spearmint actually tests better than peppermint. Who would have thought? So For the lymph blend, It's Vitex Berry, which actually, it kind of pulls fluid downward. Like I talked about how it moves in one direction. So like we talk about grounding root herbs, like everyone loves frankincense and myrrh. Those are both rooted and grounded. And so they start to, first of all, they ground you and center you so you're calmer. But they also kind of help with directionality of flow. Spearmint, as I mentioned, Ylang Ylang, which is
my favorite.
It kind of harmonizes well with everything else in a blend. And then Pomarosa. So those are the 4 in that blend. And it's just the synergy of them really helps make sure that lymph flows.
So detox, autoimmunity. And what about a hormone balancing one? I have one on my website where it's like a combination of, was it sweet fennel, geranium, rose, clary sage, and lavender, and then put that on your abdomen. What do you recommend for hormone balance? If there is a
yeah, we have one too, and clary sage is fabulous. And I like to combine that with castor oil packs. I think castor oil is amazing, especially at night. And Type A, I'm all for efficiency. You know, castor oil packs have become kind of a complicated experience where you can need a lot of materials. I basically just make sure I buy it in a glass bottle because plastic can get into things, and I just put it over my liver and wear a ratty t-shirt. Our hormone balance blend has clary sage, thyme, and vetiver, all of which balance hormones. But my experience, especially with, women over a certain age, is oftentimes the gallbladder is kind of the point of congestion, and the bile can get very viscous, which means that toxins aren't necessarily leaving the body and sometimes get reabsorbed. So I really like to focus on the liver and the gallbladder, and symptoms that might be an area to focus on might be if you get motion sickness, if you get kind of mild headache on the forehead, pain between the shoulder blades. Those are all, like either you don't really like fatty food, or if you eat it, you feel like you need to use the bathroom more quickly, mild nausea occasionally. Those are all indications that your gallbladder could use support. And there's a lot of research. I go actually into great detail about certain oils that are really supportive for the gallbladder.
If someone gets car sickness, then that's an indicator of
gallbladder. Yeah. And even morning sickness during pregnancy, that's related to the gallbladder. You're trying to vomit out the toxins so that they don't cross the placenta and impact the baby.
So can you so we have a castor oil pack that we recommend, Queen of Thrones. So I'll put a link in there.
Oh yeah. I love her.
Hers is awesome. So it takes away that mess. And so we would do that, the first half of the cycle. And then typically hers it's mess free. So you can just wear it overnight, or you can wear it just for an hour if you like. But how would you then add in, what blend would you add in, and how do you do that with the castor oil?
Yeah, I love Marisol. And basically what I do, it's our gallbladder blend, and it just includes Pomarosa, Roman chamomile, which is amazing. Like if you just want to try Roman chamomile alone, that's really good. And then black cumin. And I would just do like 2 or 3 drops, just, over, like you apply the castor oil. Oh, I guess you have it in the pack. You could just put it directly. You know what I would do? Take, maybe a teaspoon of just castor oil and then a couple drops of the oil, and then rub that over the gallbladder, liver and gallbladder, before applying the pack on top.
Nice. And then your top blends. I guess we've talked about the parasympathetic one, the lymphatic, the gallbladder blend, the circadian rhythm. Is there any other blend that you think for fertility that so typically, trying to get us in that parasympathetic state? Is there anything else that we would want to?
I would throw in the adrenal blend, because like adaptogenic herbs, if you can kind of calm the cortisol output, like cortisol, for anyone who's taken a saliva test, it's not a flat line. It's often too high when it should be lower and too low when it should be higher. And so you just want to kind of balance out the extremes. And then we also have one for the hypothalamus. So the whole endocrine system is controlled by the hypothalamus, and it's really like a thermostat gauge. It's sending hormonal messages and then kind of reading the room to see, are we sufficient in this? Do we need more? And it can just get a little like your phone. It can start to glitch a little bit and maybe not be receiving the right signals. So therefore it's not sending the right signals. So we have a blend that you apply just literally on your forehead, kind of third eye, to help just reboot the hypothalamus and ensure that it's kind of sending and receiving the clearest messages.
You wouldn't use these all at once. Like how would you layer this in?
I try to prioritize. I basically, like, if you're not sleeping, I always start there, because sometimes when you start sleeping, it just kind of puts the body back in balance. And then parasympathetic for everyone, because most of us, especially if you're anxious or you're worried or you're really trying so hard to get pregnant and you're so worried about somehow something not going the way you want it to, that just throws you off. But, I probably use like 7 oils at different times during the day. Like personally, I wake up, I use parasympathetic, adrenal, and lymph, and I do some kind of exercise in the morning. Then I use parasympathetic before meals and probably adrenal again, like in the early morning. And then I really like to support the liver and the gallbladder later in the day, and especially right before bed. I find that is the most supportive. And I highly recommend binders, to ensure that toxins are kind of grabbed in the gut and don't get reabsorbed. Because I do think that when you put the body in balance, even with healthy foods and with oils, it's kind of like safe to start detoxifying and releasing toxins. So I want to make sure they leave the body.
Yeah, we include that in our protocol when we do the testing. As soon as you have binders in there to get it all out. And so, okay. And then what about, and all of these are topically. You're not doing any diffusing.
No, I think I think topical is far more efficient, because you put it on the skin, it gets immediately into the system. If you're diffusing, you use more of it. A lot of it's being wasted in the air. For pets, especially cats, it's hard for cats to diffuse oils to detoxify oils. Okay. I'm all about efficiency. If you love the smell, diffuse for 20 minutes twice a day. But these are really designed to just balance your body so that everything else works better.
And let's talk about what to look for in essential oils, because yours are really different than others. So what to look for?
I think there's a lot of fear marketing. And truthfully, the most important thing to me is organic, because oils are the concentrated essences of plants. And if they're grown with a lot of pesticides, you're getting the concentrated essences of pesticides. That said, a lot of them are kind of wildcrafted, meaning grown in nature where they're not spraying pesticides. So I really do try to encourage people to kind of trust their own intuition. If you're walking through the mall and you walk by one of those candle stores, it's pretty obvious that those are artificial scents. Yeah. Just buy, natural scents if you can, buy organic, and buy what you like. Do a smell test. Make sure that it smells good to you.
Yeah, that Ylang Ylang always seems to call my name.
Yeah.
What I need for, what is that one for? The circadian rhythm, or which one was that? I can't remember.
It's in really everything. It's kind of like, that friend in your friend group that like gets along with everyone. That's just fun because they're always in a good mood. And someone's a little grumpy, they have a way of making them happy. Ylang Ylang is kind of a harmonizing blend, I think. I mean, it's great on its own, but it really enhances every combination.
Obviously, we're going to recommend your book for this, but is there any other book or website, app, documentary, anything you're obsessed with right now?
Oh, I'm obsessed with so many things. First of all, if they're interested and they want more information, they can grab a free chapter. Yeah. If they go to boostthebrainbook.com/gift. Yes. And that gives them like 25 ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. I love all vagus nerve people. Dr. Stephen Porges kind of wrote the Bible on polyvagal theory for the vagus nerve. The other thing I like Kelly Turner's Radical Remission book, because she gets into, it's basically commonalities that she found with people who radically, went into remission from cancer. And what's intriguing to me is only 3 of the 9 things are physical. So she talks about weaving in joy, like letting go of negative emotions, trusting your intuition, just things that I think are really healthy and helpful no matter where you are kind of in your health journey.
Mm-hmm. And is there a success story you'd like to share? I don't know if you've got anything around with pregnancy or fertility, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I have a lot of them. A lot of the women that I work with, it always seems to come down to the gallbladder. Most people don't even know what the gallbladder is, what it does. They think, you can just go without it. And most people, they kind of suffered with a lot of PMS symptoms, kind of chronic motion sickness. They always had mild headaches. It was all these things that, somehow at some point someone told them like, oh, that's just being 40, that's just getting old. You just have to live with it. And so when we started to clean up, balance their adrenals, support their gallbladders, like one woman told me, I never left home without Advil in my purse because I had such painful cramps. And now I don't even know when I'm getting my period because there's not an indicator. So I walk around with a pad in my purse all the time, and then she was actually not getting pregnant. It was keeping the pregnancy. She had, I think, 7 miscarriages and her daughter is now 2.
That's nice. And so, definitely check out the free gift there that you have. So boostthebrainbook.com/gift. Any final thoughts or words of wisdom, Jodie, on this topic, essential oils?
Well, I think, oils, pregnancy, the world right now. I just really want to remind people that sometimes things don't go according to our plan, like things were not on our bucket list and they happen. And you really sadly can't control your external world, but you can control your inner response. And so just like, some days you're driving and someone cuts you off in traffic and it doesn't really matter. You're not in a hurry. You think that's fine. The next day, the same situation happens and 4-letter words are falling out of your mouth. The only difference in that situation is you and your resilience. And you really can shift gears into that parasympathetic state of resilience so that no matter what is going on, you're still okay and you're still safe. And that I think is really powerful and huge.
I love it. Yeah. Thanks so much for your words of wisdom on this topic. It was really great. And I think that's really going to help so many people. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I regularly speak with 5 to 10 couples per week who are struggling to have their baby. And although we want to help everyone, we only have 4 spots available per month to work with us. I would like to invite you and your partner to a Supercharge Your Fertility Discovery Call. And this call is for you if you meet at least one of these criteria. You've been trying to get pregnant for at least 2 years. You've been through at least one failed IUI or IVF. This calls for action takers. If you're not ready and you wait, the risk is you'll need to wait 2 to 3 months for a spot to open up. If you're seriously considering working with us, go to Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. That's Fab Fertile, F-A-B Fertile, and click on Book a Free Call. Then you'll be all booked in and ready to spend 30 minutes to give you the action plan to getting pregnant naturally. You may be taking supplements that instead of optimizing your fertility, may be harming it. That's why we recommend professional grade supplements without harmful dyes, fillers, or top allergens. Simply go to Fab Fertile Store, that's FABfertilestore.com to receive a 15% discount on our basic supplement recommendations for preconception health. That's FabFertileStore.com. The Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, including show notes and links, provides information with respect to healthy living, nutrition, lab testing, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without representation or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.